Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Cyberfest 21. I think this is event number 10 of 14 that we've got throughout September, so we're well past halfway and getting on towards the end. And today's about innovation. It's a subject that we keep coming back to, something that the Northeast needs more of, but we do have innovation within the region. I can tell that because we've got 3 speakers on today who are going to talk to you about how they've innovated in cybersecurity in the Northeast. And they're not all from the Northeast, so it's an interesting set of speakers that we've got lined up for you. So to get us underway, I'm going to do a short introduction to what's going on in the Cyber North. So Claire, if you could hand me up my slides, please, and we'll take that from there. So I said, welcome. This is Cyberfest 21. This, I've said, it's its 10th event. It is the Northeast's biggest cybersecurity festival, now for its 4th year. Indeed, I had a meeting this morning to talk about Cyberfest 22, but we promised not to talk about it until next February. So let's see how that goes. There really is something for everyone. And we're trying to have a range of events that demonstrate the breadth and strength of the regional's cybersecurity industry. So the format for this afternoon, I've got my little intro to do. Then we've got Edwin Bartlett from Hicomply, then Igor from Healthymity, and then Eldon from Mellius. And then the 4 of us are going to get back together to talk about innovation in the region, particularly in cybersecurity. Next slide, please, Claire. So Cyberfest is brought to you by Cyber North, Dynamo's cybersecurity cluster for the Northeast region. We're supported by Accenture and the Innovation Network, and we're hugely grateful to them for continuing to support us. So we're recognised by the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, DCMS, and the National Cybersecurity Centre, the NCSC, as representing the region. And we're also members of the emerging UK Cyber Cluster Collaboration, or UKC3, which does what it says in the tin, and I'll come back to that in a little while. We're also members of Global EPIC, an international collaboration of cybersecurity clusters. So we're building our strengths both regionally, nationally, and internationally. Now we're working to grow the industry across the region, to position it as a great place to do cybersecurity business. And we're working to grow jobs, highly skilled, well-paid, and interesting jobs. And we're doing this in 4 ways. The first is we try to make a lot of noise to raise awareness and build belief in the exciting industry that's going on in the region. So we do this through events, a whole range of events, but culminating in Cyberfest during September. And I think we've made significant progress in this area, particularly with relationships with central government. They take us much more seriously now in the National Cybersecurity Centre. In fact, a couple of years back, I don't think they're even aware of what we're doing up here. The second thing that we're doing is we're working to support existing businesses and helping them to grow in a collaborative yet competitive framework. We're working on mechanisms to support this and bring opportunities to the 70 or so cybersecurity businesses that are here in the Northeast at the moment. The third thing we're trying to do is to create new businesses by developing a Cyber Innovation Centre, or ORCANE as we're calling it in the region. We're working with Newcastle University, Accenture and Plexel, who run LORCA in London, to do something similar, to try and create that centre here. For people who are thinking about businesses, early stage businesses, pre-startups, helping them to monetize and commercialize their ideas. So full business cases with central government, and we're just waiting to see if there's any money. But if anybody's aware of central government at the moment, everybody there is waiting to see if there's any money available. The 4th thing that we're doing is we're supporting young people into careers within cybersecurity, or indeed people who are thinking about changing their career and would like to do something different. So we undertook a large piece of work earlier on this year, again with the support of DCMS, and I'll be working on the plan to deliver that as soon as we get out of Cyberfest. Next slide, please, Square. I said I'd come back to UKC3. This is an exciting new venture which brings all of the UK cybersecurity clusters together following a process of recognition. So there's about 20 that we're aware of, and just under half of those have been recognised. And I'm pleased to say that Cyber North has been recognised as a cluster, which is great. I think it positions us very nicely in the UK scene. In fact, I'm director of, I think I handle the money and the governance and that kind of thing. So I position ourselves very nicely. So the cluster, or the cluster of clusters, is trying to focus on 3 things: developing that ecosystem, focusing on innovation, and focusing on skills at a national level, and coordinating the activities that are going on within the different clusters. And you see that very much reflects what we're trying to do locally. DCMS have given us some funding. DCMS come up a lot doing this. So to get us underway for this year, hopefully we'll get some more funding next year. But what we're doing with this is we put a small team together to get a better understanding of how the market is operating in the region. I think I know, but we really need to know to engage with that better, and then give us a clearer direction in what the industry wants from us going forward. Next slide. And the final slide for me is, look, there's a huge amount going on within Cyber North. If you're involved in the region cybersecurity scene in any way, please be part of it and get in touch. Thank you. So I think let's just see who, I've lost my notes, so see who's coming up first, but there you go. It must be, yes, Edwin from Hicomply is going to talk about the software platform gives you the tools to build your own information security management system.
Well, thanks, Phil, and hello, everybody. I'm just going to bring up my presentation and we can get started. Great. So, good afternoon. I am Ed Bartlett. I'm the CEO of Hicomply. We're an information security management platform that automates how you manage information security within the business environment. I'm going to talk to you today about the product, how we came about, but also how we see the innovation coming through in the product, but also in this market, in this space. Hicomply as a concept was actually conceived back in 2011 when I was involved in setting up a technology business in the property sector. We found that we needed information security credentials to win business from major government clients and corporate entities, particularly in the technology, data, and ICT space. It became quite apparent that those information security credentials would transform the business if we were able to take advantage of those. So even though we were only a 3 or 4 person technology business, we set about getting our business accredited to ISO IEC 27001, which is the de facto industry information security standard. It was a lot of work, quite painful, but off the back of that, we found that we saw significant opportunity and business contracts coming through, some of which were transformational in the way that the business operated. So we could see the benefit of getting those security credentials in place and managing it going forward, but we found the process very painful. We found it very time consuming, expensive, and we constantly thought, well, there's got to be an easier way of doing this. At the time, we were focused on that particular business, so the idea got parked for a little while, but roll on to 2019, 2020, and Hicomply was born. And the business has been up and running now for almost 2 years. And I'm particularly delighted to talk to you today, as we've just announced just yesterday, a £3 million investment coming into the business from BGF, which is I think a true reflection of the importance the technology sector is seeing in information security and the need to protect businesses and their essential data assets. So we're excited about the opportunity ahead of us, and I think certainly we're seeing a lot of investment and interest from the technology community in this market. So one thing that when we think of information security, it's fair to say that most businesses still don't take information and cybersecurity seriously. And because of that, we see that cybersecurity is a sector that very much relies on fear to create action. It's the big stick approach as opposed to the carrot. And it's definitely the case that, yes, businesses can no longer ignore information security. They need to prove they take it seriously. The threat of being hacked is real, and the impact of that is significant in terms of financial damage, reputational damage, And, we're seeing fines ever increasing from the likes of, ICO and beyond. So it's definitely an issue. And just, I always laugh when I see these sorts of images. It's always a guy in a hoodie with a blue or a purple screen doing the damage, and the vast majority of situations today is it's not a guy in a hoodie that's doing the damage. We are subject to risks in all areas of our business, across all types of employees in many different locations. But what I'm going to talk about really is how we've sort of taken this on and taken this concept on and trying to address some of these fears and some of these risks. As I mentioned before, most end customers of technology businesses in particular will want to know that they're buying technology from a business that takes information security seriously, and that would normally be demonstrated through a certification, whether it be Cyber Essentials 27001, SOC, and there are many others, examples on the screen here that, and it really depends on which geography that you're in, that you would focus. But, where do you start? Where do you start in gaining and getting these certifications in place, and how much do they cost? How long does it take? The answer to that question very much depends on your approach, your processes, people, and how you go about using technology to solve that. So we saw an opportunity to help businesses demonstrate their certification, demonstrate their information security credentials, and also introduce information security management systems that keep a business secure, not just achieve that certification, but continuously demonstrate that a business is secure. And for most businesses, doing this can be costly. It's a human, paper heavy, document heavy process. The policies, the procedures, the processes required to bring all of this together can be quite complex, and the risks of getting it wrong, as we mentioned before, are ever increasing. So it's often left to the unlucky few, I should say, to solve the problem. And we work with a lot of technology businesses where maybe there's only 10, 15 staff, and information security is very much in the hands of the CTO, the CEO, the key management team within the business. It's not something that they can let go of very easily, and it's something they would like to cascade across their business, but find that a real challenge. So the innovation that our product brings is very much around automation. It's the automation of how a business manages its information security across the whole organization, involving all of the employees and all of the supply chain working within our organization. So at the top of this slide here, you can see that within a business, we've got policies, we've got incidents, we've got risks that are constantly being managed within an organization. You've also got links to your third-party systems, whether they be HR, CRM, etc. And then you've got existing policies and procedures, or policies and procedures that are dictated to you by third-party organizations or even customers. So our platform pulls together that management of policies, incidents, and risks into a solution that can be managed across the business. And the real difference between this solution and doing this in a document management platform is the automation and the process automation that is embedded into the software. So for example, to achieve something like ISO 27001, you would need something like 20, 30 individual policies and procedures. Within our application, as soon as an organization switches into the system, the first time, they're able to pull in from our library of pre-written, authored by expert policies and procedures. They can be brought into their workspace, and at a headline level, key information about the location, the type of business, the scope of their information security can be quickly overlaid into that policy library framework and cascaded across the whole business. And, effectively, within an hour or two of logging in for the first time, an organization can have a full set of policies and procedures in place, and any changes that then happen going forward can be automated across the whole business. And that's simply giving you 50 to 60% of what an information security management system would contain straight off. We've got automations around assets and building asset libraries, and also undertaking risk assessments across the business. So, for example, to create an ISMS, one of the first steps is to identify what assets you have, what information assets you have in the business. So we have libraries of assets that you can pick from, whether it be desktop machines, laptops, network infrastructure, third-party systems. And we built in, through aggregating, say, 20 plus years of industry experience, we've analyzed what risks, what issues, what threats, what vulnerabilities would occur for those different types of assets. So by selecting into the types of asset you have, the system is advising through the automations and the algorithms telling you, these are the typical risks, these are the typical threats that you would have. So it's a case of, you don't need to be an expert, but you can pick and select and build your risk profile based on industry best practice. There's still a process of reviewing and checking and going through that, but it's a case of selecting from best practice, and those automations are built into the platform. We've also got task management engines that will tell the team members what documents they need to review, when they need to review them, what meetings need to happen and when. So it not only provides you with the processes and the templates, but it also tells you how to undertake a statement, how to build a statement of applicability, how to undertake an audit of your security processes. So the system is very much aimed at that automation and time saving. And from a business benefit point of view, talked a little bit about the commercial benefits of winning business through having credentials in place, but we're seeing organizations save as much as 50% of time and cost around building their ISMS and managing their ISMS. Building an ISMS isn't a one-time thing. The certification models typically work on a 3-year time horizon. So there's the work to get the initial certification in place, but it has to be re-audited and checked on an annual basis. You have to carry out audits. There have to be demonstrated evidence. There has to be controls that are maintained and kept in place. So it's an ongoing thing, and the platform is very much giving you that ongoing saving of time and effort. But some of the biggest benefits are around cultural, people-related matters. How do you bring new people into your organization and embed the culture, security culture that you want as an organization to be in place? The platform gives you the tools to bring people into that for the first time, and give them that leg up and step up into the way you want to operate from day one. And it's also giving complete transparency and accountability across the business. And we use the platform when we were audited and certified as a business, and the auditors that came in from Lloyd's Register who undertook their audits did them remotely. They did them from wherever they were working in the UK. So the platform also gives you that ability to work in a remote, dispersed manner that, in the current work environment and the culture, the world we live in, is also critical. And it's about building that robust process that ultimately adds value to your business. And in many cases, we're seeing investors, looking at technology businesses, and they ask difficult questions about the company, in terms of how it's managing its intellectual property, but they're very much paying attention now to how do you manage your critical information assets, the assets that ultimately contain a lot of the value within an organization. So I'm conscious my 10 minutes is probably up, so I'm going to leave it there and hand back to Phil and hand over to the next speaker. But thank you for listening.
Excellent. Well, that was really good. Thank you very much. Really good intro into the organisation that you've set up, and congratulations to your funding. And I'll come back to that in the questions, I think. Can I ask Igor to come up, please, then?
Yes. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll share my screen. Yeah. Hello, everybody. So my name is Igor Kotsiuba. I'm CEO of Healthymity, the company based in Software Center in Sunderland. And I want to briefly speak today about innovation and where we are from and what we've been doing for last decade. And let's continue with the next slide. So first of all, I'm originally from Ukraine, and we had severe attacks there on critical infrastructure, on energy grids, and we were involved in all those recovery processes of OT and SCADA systems. And this slide is about innovation. First project where we were R&D partner. It's Horizon 2020 funded project about cybersecurity of energy grids. And we've got a lot of partners from the whole Europe. And so our idea was to create some sort of CM system with additional modules to protect our smart grids, our energy grids, from attacks like we had in Ukraine. So our main focus was on having forensics framework. I mean, because we can understand that even though we've got some policies and some cybersecurity systems in place, we still can have an attack. And what can we do next? I mean, digital forensics is about how to deliver all those traces we've got to the court of law, because court of law is the core stakeholder after the attack to cover basically the expenses we had during attack. And so SCADA legacy systems are the critical thing, just because we've got them for 30 years, 40 years, and we need to do something with cybersecurity of this. Of course, Internet of Things, which is emerging technology in energy grid environment, and advanced metering infrastructure, which is again in place in our transition in cities into smart cities. And so we deliver this project, and it's going to be done in November this year. And we've got this CM system and all the modules developed. And that's an amazing project. I would really love to share with you. And basically some modules we still use in our projects now in Northeast. So I just want to jump into the key aims. So forensics framework, repository of incidents. So the idea was, like in Ukraine, we had an attack, and then nobody knows about this attack, right? So we developed a repository of incidents where we can anonymously share the data using group signature. So we can share data with all the stakeholders in Europe, in the UK, and say, okay, in Ukraine now, smart grid is attacked, and that is a trace. Please use your policies or repeat some checks with firmware or software which is used within infrastructure. I just, for the sake of time, I want to switch to another project we had later. This is a response project. So the aim of this project was to build a data lake for cities who are achieving the carbon zero goal in 2050. So, and this is something really amazing. And we're now in Northeast, we're trying to submitting ideas into Riverside, Sunderland, just because in the region, many places where city councils want to achieve those goals and energy transition is an active phase, let's say. So we used trilemma approach, where we basically analyze all the aspects for policymakers, and we use EU Strategic Energy Technology Plan as a core framework for us, where the idea was to create 100 positive energy districts within Europe until 2025, and how to replicate this best practice within the Europe. And so we've got 13 European countries in this project. This is a huge project with major stakeholders in the UK, in Europe. And so these are our integrated solutions we use there, and transformation access. So basically, we're looking at all the aspects of energy neutral city, positive energy districts, I mean, not energy neutral, carbon zero districts, and positive energy districts. So how to transform our districts within new frameworks. So I want to show you just again one slide about our partners. And so we've got cities within Europe, I mean, in Finland, in Spain, in France. We've got solution providers, energy stakeholders like EDF. So we've got horizontal partners, and we develop those technological platform with them. And so we are providing cybersecurity of data lake, where all the data from all the stakeholders in the city is shared. That's about our Horizon Europe experience, where we are R&D partner, and we deliver cybersecurity solutions. In first one for SCADA and OT, and in this response project, we deliver it for data lake, which is being used by city councils, policymakers, to view the clear and big picture of all the data within the city to achieve those energy goals, let's say. I want to say that we're very active in R&D and visibility of our R&D. So this is cybercrime investigations and using big data, AI to investigate cyber crimes. I'm co-organizer of workshop 5 years in a row in the US on big data, IEEE Big Data Conference. And of course, this year it's virtual, just according to IEEE recommendations. But that's an amazing workshop. I encourage you to participate, and basically let's communicate, and let's show Northeast and all the amazing job within the cluster Cyber North we are doing together. And that's I think that's highly relevant event for all of us. So I'm traveling quite rigorously, and basically, so this is a malware forum where I was delivering all the experience we've got with smart grids, together with FireEye, with Google. And so we are fighting for visibility. I mean, in the US, in EU, in the UK, with all the stakeholders. On one of the picture, you can see a Bell and Cat. We were discussing all the fake news problems and all the OSINT processes we have in Europe, and how to be resilient towards new emerging types of disinformation, new emerging types of cyber attacks and social engineering. So that's the very recent project. It's going to start next Monday. This is Electron, where together with Thales, Gemalto, Atos, IBM, Schneider Electric, we'll be working on nanogrid cybersecurity platform. And we invited Ukrainian stakeholders, the energy grid providers who were attacked, and together with the European stakeholders, we will be delivering this platform, cybersecurity platform. I'm speaking to you right now from San Francisco. So basically, my virtual background is not virtual. I'm here 3 miles from this bridge, just because Healthymity was chosen by Next Generation Internet. This is an initiative of European Commission, where together with other companies we've got like 3 innovators from the UK, along with me, and we are here in the US working on our idea. So Healthymity was chosen by Santa Clara University in Silicon Valley to work together on the idea of having platform to securely share patients' data. So, and I'm here now in Silicon Valley working with university. So again, about visibility, we are working on our IP. We are about to file patents. We publish our software we're developing. I mean, my team and I, we've been working on many directions in healthcare. I mean, decisive analytics, decision support systems for cybersecurity, patients' data sharing, and data fusion for all of that. And we publish those results. We are publishing our mobile application for many diseases. Our team, my colleagues, are working on Parkinson's disease. Also, our team members work on patients with many different conditions of their health, and how to share this data securely, how to use federated learning, which is promising a direction of machine learning to share this data, or basically not to share data, but train the models. So this is our idea behind Healthymity, and together with university in the US, we are developing next version of it. So my core messages to you within the cluster, and I'm really happy to be invited here. I'm really happy that I'm within the cluster, within the region. So what I want to say that we are submitting more than 10 proposals a year to Horizon Europe, which I believe is really nice opportunity for all of us to have an opportunity to deliver some complex ideas, some innovative ideas into the market, just because sometimes complex ideas cannot be funded from the market, but we can use synergy with having city councils, having use cases and users on board and submit some really nice ideas and be funded by European Commission. And so here I do believe I really like Northeast and all people here. I mean, so we're a newcomer here, right? Like 2 years ago, we started business. And so in Northeast, in Sunderland, I felt that, okay, here we can be support. I mean, City Council is open to give an opportunity to test bed some solutions or discuss some piloting. And why I'm here, why I'm in Sunderland, just because, okay, why this Ukrainian guy moved to the UK? So I was endorsed 2 years ago by Tech Nation UK. It was endorsed as an exceptional talent in cybersecurity. They've got this program to let me start business here. My next message to you is we are open to volunteer and pilot any digitization project or digitalization project within the Northeast. Just because we've got many solutions we've been developing within European Commission funded infrastructure, and we are impact driven, and Northeast is all about synergy, and we feel this, and we are really happy to be here. So my team was recognized in the UK, USA, EU, and let's have Northeast visible together. Thank you, Phil. So I'm back to you. Just if you have some questions interesting for the audience.
We'll come back to the end, but thank you very much, Igor, and we're delighted to have you here up in the Northeast. So there you go. So can I ask Eldon to come up next, please?
Hi there, thanks. Thank you. Right, I'm Eldon Jobe from Mellius Cyber. I haven't put together a fancy presentation like the others have. I don't even know how to put a fancy backdrop, so you have to put up with where actually I'm in my office. So Phil asked me to not so much talk about our product, but talk about the journey of innovation. So I thought I'd just tell you a story about the journey of our innovation and innovating within cybersecurity or really any industry for that matter. So the first issue for us was trying to understand what it was we wanted to do. Yes, we were building a cybersecurity business and using all of our past experiences, but how do we actually get that idea across? How do we innovate to stand out from the crowd? How do we offer something different? And dare I say it, how do we be disruptive? Because obviously if you can create a disruptive product through innovation, then that's the holy grail. But you've got to be careful when you're innovating and not going too far, I guess is part of it, and not cutting out key points of the industry. And my background a while ago was recruitment, and don't hate me for it, but in that industry, people were always trying to be innovative. I mean, to start with, email came in, it was going to kill the recruiter. LinkedIn came out, it was going to be the death of the recruiter. And from then onwards, was always new innovative products that were trying to be released, and all of them failed, these future ones, because the one thing they were trying to do was cut out the recruiter. And that's like a big mistake when you're trying to innovate, cutting out key players within that industry. The biggest disruptor in any industry that you will know of, that everyone knows of, is Uber. And the one thing Uber never did, they made a platform, they made it simple to book a taxi, but they didn't try and cut out the taxi driver. And that's why it was so successful. So that's what we were thinking about. We wanted to innovate, but we didn't want to cut out key points of the industry that would actually go against us. And really, before you can innovate in any industry, before you can build something, you really must understand your own journey and understand the story of how you got to where you are now. Yes, you want to go somewhere, but where are you now? How did you get there? And I don't really think you can create an innovative product unless you understand that. And if you look at a Hollywood script, that's always about a story. So no matter which film it is, Top Gun, Star Wars, Jaws, Jerry Maguire is probably a really good one to understand. Every Hollywood script sticks to the exact same formula. You've got the hero or heroine who needs to actually achieve something. And that's what we're trying to do, is innovating. But in achieving something, they actually become a completely different person. They go through a whole separate journey. And I think when you're creating something, some sort of innovation, you need to understand that journey and that you're going to go through, but you can never really understand quite what you're going to go through, but where you've come from to get there, and the rocks and the hills and you might bump into across the way. So I guess before I explain the ups and downs of innovating our product, I should explain a little bit about where we came from. And I won't go into loads of times. I think I'm already over the time I'm supposed to be allotted. So we were a group of people with different experiences, so sales, PwC trained accountant, a tech guy from enterprise level tech background, but all of us had something in common, and it was cybersecurity experience and the difficulties within that. Now, obviously, our tech guy had excellent cybersecurity experience and skill sets, but he still saw the issues presented to clients. And that's the key point, the issues presented to clients. And that's where our journey to innovate in cybersecurity actually began. And the key point, like I was saying about the issue, so our whole journey was designed to put clarity and understanding into the hands of our clients. However, in doing that, we changed as well, like in the Hollywood script, I guess, because we ended up sort of pivoting the business. And when you're innovating, you've got to be prepared to do that. It's part of the journey. We discovered what our clients actually wanted and needed, and it wasn't quite what we set out to build, but it was a side effect of listening to the feedback and understanding what our clients liked about what we were offering. So when we started the innovation, the idea was that we wouldn't just be an old-fashioned penetration test company that produced reports that your clients couldn't understand. I've been there in other businesses. I've built and innovated in other companies before, and you need cybersecurity. And I've had these reports, and it's just like, well, maybe may as well be talked to a car mechanic, just saying that your car needs fixing, you don't really understand why. So instead, what we did is we used our knowledge and experience of pen testing to create a more useful combination of penetration tests and vulnerability scanning to ultimately create cybersecurity as a service model. So this model had to be an always-on model. It had to be an agentless model. It needed to be purchased by companies that didn't have the internal tech skills to look after any form of cybersecurity tool themselves. It had to have a cloud support model. It had to produce the best cloud-based reports that non-technical board members could actually understand and use them, and they could be useful. It had to be able to guide stakeholders and give clients of our customers the confidence that investment in our customer as a supplier was safe and secure. Now, we hit all of these, but by hitting these achievements, this is where we realized we needed to pivot our offering, because what was coming back to us, it wasn't so much that our clients were happy with the fact we were keeping them more safe on the peripheral. It was actually that we were detecting the breaches before they became dangerous. So we realized what was more important to all our clients was a breach detection tool. So that's kind of where we pivoted the product and the marketing pitch around that. So we called it simply a breach detection tool. So the aim of that is a tool that doesn't just aim to keep you safe. It's a tool that will react fast to any breach. And that's so important because the reason, an undetected breach, for instance, is why BA were compromised and the NHS were compromised and the US pipeline went down, and why telex are no longer with us, because they didn't know they were breached. Therefore, it became a serious matter by the time they discovered it and they couldn't do anything about it. So a breach detection tool that reduces the average time to detect a breach, which is actually 229 days, and reduce that time down to 1 day. And that's what we pivoted our business and the product around. But we realized, yeah, it's great innovation, but wow, that's going to need a whole new level of innovation and investment. And once we realized the level of artificial intelligence and machine learning that we would need to develop at the back end, and the innovation needed to develop for the dark web side of things, and the need for super high quality UI, UX develop at the front end, we realized, well, actually, we were going to need a lot more money than we could invest. So we were going to need to go out to investment houses. I was going to need to go to the city and pitch for investment. So that's what we did. However, again, this is part of this journey of innovation. This is kind of the ups and downs. So great, we're going to go and pitch for investment. Oh no, how are we going to run the business? So There's all sorts of things you need to take on board. So it's a whole new ball game. With money, you can do so much more. But in order to get that money, you're concentrating on building a pitch deck and forecasting new figures. And this takes away from selling and current development. You're not concentrating on growing the business. You're not concentrating on growing development and innovating further. But £600,000 for a startup at this stage could make a massive difference and potentially would then lead to a 7-figure investment. So we had to go for it. So what I did to make sure that we didn't kind of stagnate or ruin the company by going after investment, I first off built a big sales pipeline. So we had lots of prospects there in the pipeline waiting to close and convert into clients. And once I built that, I went after the investment. So I guess what I'm saying is that if you get to that point where you need investment to innovate, my advice would be first build up that sales pipeline. It'll support you through the time of raising funds. But not only that, it'll answer many questions that investors will ask you. When you're raising those funds, that they're going to have lots of questions about the business, but you've got a sales pipeline that answers a lot of your questions, or their questions. So needless to say, we've raised our first round of funding. The innovation on the artificial intelligence and machine learning is growing. The sales pipeline is growing, and we're having to grow our delivery team and our sales team. I've just had a note asking to wrap up, so I'll just close by just saying, we mentioned films and Hollywood scripts, so I'll just close with a couple of quotes from some films. Yoda very famously said to Luke Skywalker, "Do or don't, there is no try." And with innovation, you've just got to go for it and give it your all. And Gordon Gekko also said, money is not the prime asset in life, time is. And it's very true. You need to be able to put that time into it. If you're just looking to innovate for the money at the end of it, you're not going to get where you need to. You need to have the time, and you will get that time back in spades once you build that innovation. So as I've been asked to wrap up, that's it. And thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you very much, Eldon. And I'm sorry, I think I was being unrealistic, expecting three such fantastic stories to be confined to 10 minutes each. I think that's my fault, rather. But my understanding is, sorry, Claire, if you could just bring everybody up. I understand, I think my quote would come from Tolstoy, who said there was only 2 stories. A stranger comes into town, or a man goes on a journey. And so I think innovation is probably one of those journeys. So while you're there though, is innovation something you can learn, or is it innate? It seems like you just can't help yourself, Eldon. You're all right. There, you're back. Did you hear my question? Sorry.
So I don't know if you were talking to me, but I lost you there.
Yeah, no, I think it's just the rubbish broadband in my house. Yes. Yeah, so is innovation something that you can teach or learn, or is you just don't seem to be able to help yourself? Is it something that you can be taught?
I think it's something you've got to have a passion for. I think if you want to build a business and you want to do something different and you're in tech, you've got to be able to innovate. And I think, yeah, you either have it or don't, but you've got to have a passion and a drive. You've got to go for it, and you've got to give it your time. Can you be taught it? I don't think so. I think you've either got it or you don't. Okay, and
so great, thanks, Eldon. If I come to you, Edwin, there's been quite a bit of talk about money. You've just landed some money, and do you find raising funding in the Northeast a problem, or is it?
Interesting question. I mean, our initial phase of funding came from a Northeast-based investor. This phase is a national investor who invests across a whole spectrum of technology, business, manufacturing. It's you know, their remit is very wide. I think what I think we're seeing though is that it really comes down to a number of different things. I mean, raising investment, if you're a team that's got a track record and you've innovated before. So a second time innovator team is definitely going to find it more easy to find funding. So that there is definitely a challenge there, that if this is the first time you're looking to raise investment to fund an innovation, then the first time is always going to be 10 times more difficult than the second time. So that's certainly something we've seen. It is easier second time because you've got the ability to, you know, as has been talked, present the innovation, present the business, present the market opportunity in the way that an investor will understand it, which is often the biggest challenge. But yeah, I think it's becoming, you know, certainly it's obvious that cyber, I think that the market is certainly an area that's very active. So, you know, our investor has invested in a number of different businesses in this broad marketplace. So I think to a certain extent right now, it's slightly easier than maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago. And I think I think investment in technology in the cyberspace is only going to increase. I mean, it's, you know, all the projections, you know, put cyber information security in the, you know, in the top 3, 2, 3, 4 growth categories of technology going forward. So I think it's a good sector to be innovating right now in terms of gaining funding. But just because it's a hot area, it's a hot subject, doesn't guarantee the funding, that's for sure. But yeah, I think it seems to be getting easier, but at the same time, I wouldn't say raising funding for it is ever easy. There's, as was mentioned, there's a huge amount of work involved. And actually building it, I think certainly your innovation strategy should always be geared towards a funding strategy. So there'll be things, you know, talk about, there are innovation processes, certainly, you know, talk about can you learn innovation, or you know, is it a natural skill? I would say that in a lot of cases there are processes around innovation that you can adopt that allow you to demonstrate certain metrics. And I'm a great fan of sort of, you know, the lean sort of school of thought, where, you know, there's you know, there is, in the world where your financial metric is 0 because you're still innovating at the very early stages, then you have to be able to demonstrate other metrics. So innovation metrics are often things that don't have a pound sign attached to them. They're about, you know, they're about user interaction. They might be around user buy-in. It might be around sort of voice of customer related metrics that at the early stage won't generate revenue and won't have a pound sign attached to them, but you need to gather and present those innovation metrics to help present your case for funding. And but ultimately, every funder I've spoken to will say that's great, but you know, how much revenue have you got? Where are you where's your sales pipeline, has been mentioned. So there's a balance, I think, depending where you are in the stage of your innovation journey, if you like.
Okay, thanks, Edwin. I think the impression that I get, if you whether it's innate or not, but if you are a innovator, you seem to innovate all the time, which brings me nicely on to Igor, who seems to have ideas coming out of his head like it. But when we last spoke, which I think was about 3 or 4 months ago, you said about how the situation for innovation in the UK was very different from Ukraine or other countries that you've been. Would you like to tell us a bit more about that, Igor?
Yeah, basically, I think, you know, I mean, funding is all about trust, and business is all about trust. I mean, specifically in cyber. I mean, and so the challenge we've got, just because, so in Ukraine, you know, I was like an advisor for government, for ministries, for we wrote laws on cybersecurity, right? And then I moved to the UK, and of course we've got track of records. I mean, we've got projects done, we've got customers, international. I mean, we have customers like customers who we can talk about, like AstraZeneca, Ericsson, EDF, and so that helps a lot. So we innovate, we use basically our own funds and all the opportunities of European Commission and national funding opportunities, just because that's also funding, right? I mean, there are 2 ways we can go to investor, and then but we can also use all the opportunities we've got within the UK. Globally, I mean, we must understand that in the USA, in Europe, in the UK, so the thing is to find credible companies we can deliver something tangible with. And yeah, so it's challenging for us because we just moved 2 years ago. I mean, to build trust, but it's just challenge. It's not mission impossible. So I think that I really feel this synergy as I talked with you like 4 months ago, right? So I was really shocked because we needed some use cases. For instance, we've got this carbon zero platform. I mean, data lake for energy transition in cities, and then I met like city council in Sunderland, and then we discussed this. And city council is open. I mean, they are ready to uptake this innovation, right? That's a very important thing, because sometimes we've got innovation, but there is no room or no opportunity to implement this, to have real life scenarios. And that's really important, and that's what I feel about Northeast. I mean, we brought our more than decade experience here, and region is open to this, and that's really good thing.
That's really encouraging. So if I come back to you, Eldon, we've had a question from the audience about, are you seeing that the market is more open to cybersecurity innovation and more willing to listen about the kind of products that you bring?
I'd love to really say yes to that question. I think tentatively it's a yes, but a lot of people are still not getting it, and it's kind of after the horse has bolted. But more and more, we're talking to people who have already started thinking about cybersecurity, and that's really encouraging. And I mean, there's a long way to go, is why it's a tentative yes. But if I was having this conversation with you just at the start of lockdown, say last year, it's a whole different view. I think lockdown might have actually helped a lot of companies realize the risks in cyber, and it's sort of jumped it forward a little bit. SMEs are mixed in the way in how seriously they're taking it. I think perhaps larger SMEs are starting to get it more than the smaller ones. But it's really encouraging when you do see the smaller SMEs that want to talk to you, and they're reaching out and saying, look, we know we've got to do something about cyber. We just don't know what it is. Can you help us? So we are getting more of that, but I would like to see it increasing. Okay, so
while you're talking, Eldon, I'm just have a couple more questions because we're going to have to wrap up soon. But you could have gone anywhere in the world in terms of some of these products that you've developed. So what do you think the region needs to do more of in order to encourage more people to innovate?
I think the Northeast is quite good for innovation. And Igor was saying quite a lot of why he's come to the region. And he hasn't just come from London, he's come from a lot further than that. And he loves it here because of innovation. So it's a tough one. I think the region does really well in encouraging innovation. I think the key thing is trying to stop people leaving here and going to London to innovate. How they do that, I don't really know the answer, but probably be more vocal about what they offer.
Excellent. So I'll come back to Edwin on that one. And how do we stop people moving? Although you can change jobs but not move your desk these days. And what advice would you give to people in terms of staying here and helping to innovate and help the region?
I've always said that to build the talent pool and to maintain that talent pool, we have to be aiming at innovating, competing not with other parts of the UK. We have to compete on a global level. You know, we have to compete with the very best in San Francisco, in Austin, Texas. In terms of technology, we shouldn't. I think we often become very insular in our aspiration for what is good, what is excellent, what is And I think certainly my experience of other technology businesses, the ones that really maintain that traction and have done so in the Northeast, are the ones that who keep their skill and their base and their real heart in this part of the world, is the ones that compete on a global scale and openly go out as, you know, to be category defining in their marketplace rather than to be a follower. So I think that's my, you know, and I think that culture and sort of outlook often, I think, is one way of keeping people on board and keeping them part of the vision. But I think absolutely right now, I mean, I'd say we've got some of the very best technology, software engineers and test. I mean, our previous business was acquired by a US business, and you know, in that business we built up a small but, you know, hugely talented software development and testing team. And you know, some of the processes and methods and ways of working were not only best class for us, but you know, we had a business that was 10-15 times the size of us, looking at the way that we did things as best practice for their whole organization globally. And one of the areas that they put out there as best practice across their was how we managed information security as a technology business. And that, you know, we set the framework for how that was taken across the wider business. So I think it's really important to aim high. And I think people will appreciate, you know, will want to be part of that vision. I think people want, you know, because people know they could work anywhere in the world right now. You know, they want to be part of something that is truly world class, and I think that's what we should aspire to.
Okay, that's great. I think kind of stay local but think global would be a great. I think I'll market that one out. But there you go. Our last word for then from Igor. I've had one of the people online has suggested that you speak to Northeast Traffic Control Centre. I don't know whether you have, but there you go. But I'd like to ask you one final question, Igor, and that is around this myth about failing. Failure is part of innovation. That the country that you're in the moment, I think, developed the phrase "fail fast," or is it, and fail often, or whatever it is. And is failure part of the innovation process?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a good sign. You know, if everything went right, then be suspicious. I mean, something wrong, because I mean, failure is inevitable part, and failure is not. I mean, it's a trigger for pivoting, to pivot your idea, your approach, and so the most. I think the most scared part of any innovation is to go to the sales. I mean, to sell your product. And then that's the thing. With innovation, we need to think about marketability of our innovation. That's a real thing, and we always try to have it in mind. I mean, to avoid epic fail, right? Some failures are okay, but we need to think about the stages, the marketability of the idea, the stages we need to, and basically we need to start selling as fast as I mean, as soon as possible, and then we can feel this feedback from the market. So that's absolutely okay with any innovative business.
Excellent. Look, guys, I think I've gone a bit over, but I think that was my fault for being a bit optimistic about how we could manage to tell such great stories in such a short space of time. But I'm getting a sense of innovation. Perhaps what determines whether you're innovative or not is that tenacity, that ability to learn from the mistakes and keep getting back up again and having a go. But look, I'd like to say thank you very much, Eldon, Edwin, Igor, for taking part in this. I'd like to thank Dynamo Northeast, particularly Claire, who helped us to run this at the background and does all the stuff, all the magic with the cameras. And I'd like to thank the audience for attending. We've recorded this and we'll be putting it out in early October, so there's another chance to have a look at it. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Bye.